What if, at this very moment, your future self is observing you? Not just a memory, not a philosophical thought experiment, but an actual conscious presence. A version of you from years, perhaps even decades ahead, looking back. Imagine the implications, the profound shift in perspective. It's a thought that immediately grabs at something deeply personal, isn't it? Because in our quietest moments, we all wonder about the path we're on, about the choices we're making right now, and how they will echo through time. We inherently grasp that our present self is laying the foundation for a future self we haven't even met yet. But this isn't about mere introspection. This is about a radical, almost disorienting possibility. What if that future version of you, armed with the full weight of experience, with all the joys and heartaches, the triumphs and regrets, the wisdom accumulated over an entire lifetime, what if they were right here, now, simply watching, not interfering, not sending cryptic messages back through time, but simply time's observing asterisk? What would they see? What would they times feel times as they witnessed your current decisions, your anxieties, your dreams unfolding in real time? It's a question that transcends the purely speculative and delves into the very core of our human experience, forcing us to confront the nature of time, consciousness, and agency. Because if such an observation were possible, even hypothetically, it would inherently change how we perceive our actions. Suddenly, every hesitation, every bold leap, every mundane moment takes on an entirely new dimension. You're not just living for yourself in this instant. You're performing for a silent, knowing audience of one, yourself. And that audience knows the script already. They've lived it. Think about the weight of that gaze. It's not a judgmental stare from some external entity, but an intensely empathetic one, born of shared history. Your future self knows the context, understands the fears that drive you, the hopes that propel you forward. They've walked in your shoes, literally. So what kind of performance would you want to give for them? Would you act differently? Would you approach that difficult conversation with more courage, that creative project with more dedication, that moment of joy with more profound presence? This isn't about seeking approval. It's about aligning your present self with the wisdom of your future self, even if that wisdom is only imagined. It's about a conversation with destiny, playing out in real time, right now. And it's a conversation that has the power to reshape everything. Now, to truly unpack this, we first need to establish some ground rules, some shared understanding of what we're even talking about. Because the concept of a future self isn't singular. It's a spectrum, really. Are we talking about a linear, deterministic future where every choice is already etched in stone? Or a branching multiverse where countless versions of you exist, each a product of different decisions? The philosophical implications of each scenario are vast, and they fundamentally alter the nature of that hypothetical observation. Let's start with the most intuitive idea: a singular, linear future. In this view, your future self is simply the inevitable culmination of all your present actions. Every choice you make, every word you utter, every thought you entertain is a brick in the road leading directly to them. If this future self could watch you, they would be watching the very genesis of their own existence. It would be an act of profound self-reflection, seeing the raw, unpolished version of who they once were. Imagine the nostalgia, the pang of longing for simpler times, perhaps even a quiet despair over mistakes they know you're about to make. This perspective often brings with it a sense of determinism, the feeling that our future is already written. If your future self is already there, watching, doesn't that imply that your path is fixed? This is where the concept gets fascinatingly complicated. Because even if the future is set, your time's awareness times of being watched, even if it's just a thought experiment, introduces a new variable. It provides a unique form of self-accountability. You're not just accountable to others or even to a hypothetical future you. You're accountable to the living, breathing entity that times is times that future you. It's a subtle but powerful shift in motivation. On the other hand, consider the multiverse theory, where every decision point creates a new, divergent timeline. In this scenario, your future self isn't a single entity but a multitude of potential selves. If one of these future selves were watching you, which one would it be? The one that achieved all its dreams? the one that faced immense hardship, the one that made radically different choices. This perspective liberates us from the strictures of determinism, suggesting that our future is a garden of forking paths, constantly being cultivated by our present choices. If a multiverse future self were watching, their gaze might be less about reminiscing and more about curiosity, or even a subtle form of guidance. They'd be watching times a times path, not times the times path. They might see the divergence point where their own timeline split off and observe what times you times do differently. This opens up an intriguing idea. Could their observation, their mere existence, somehow subtly influence your choices, even without direct interaction? The very act of considering their presence might nudge you towards a particular outcome, creating a feedback loop across potential realities. Regardless of whether we lean towards a linear or multiversal view, the core utility of this thought experiment remains. It's a powerful tool for self-reflection and personal growth. Because what does it mean to live a life worthy of that future self's approval? Not a judgmental approval, but an understanding. A feeling of, yes, that's how it was, and I understand why I did that. Let's delve into the practical implications of adopting this mindset. How would you approach your daily life if you genuinely felt deep down that your future self was observing? The mundane becomes monumental. That extra hour spent procrastinating, that argument you let escalate, that opportunity you let slip away, suddenly, they're not just transient moments. They are recorded, witnessed by the version of you who already knows the full impact of those choices. Imagine waking up each morning and consciously acknowledging this unseen observer. Would you be more mindful of your health, knowing that your future self would benefit directly from your present discipline? Would you invest more in relationships, understanding the profound loneliness or deep connection that awaits? Would you pursue your passions with greater fervor, recognizing that this present moment is the seed for future fulfillment or future regret? The beauty here is that this observation isn't about fear or guilt. It's about empowerment. It's about making choices today that your future self will look back on with a quiet sense of gratitude, not a wince of disappointment. It's about closing that gap between who you are now and who you aspire to be, bridging it with conscious, intentional action. Consider the concept of regret. We often define regret as the pain of wishing we had acted differently in the past. But what if your future self is watching you times right now making decisions that they will eventually regret? The thought provides a unique kind of preemptive wisdom. It allows you to anticipate those future feelings of regret and, potentially, course correct before they even solidify. It's a chance to minimize future sorrow, to maximize future contentment. This is where the idea shifts from mere philosophical musing to a powerful psychological tool. We're not actually suggesting time travel or interdimensional observation. We're leveraging the deeply human capacity for empathy and foresight, directing it back towards ourselves. By externalizing our future self, even as a mental construct, we create a powerful internal compass. Let's talk about patience. In our fast-paced world, immediate gratification is often the default. But your future self knows the value of long-term investment, of delayed gratification. They know that the seeds planted today, nurtured with consistent effort, will eventually bear fruit. If they were watching, would you be more inclined to stick with that difficult skill, that challenging project, that slow-burning relationship? The presence of that future self becomes an anchor, pulling you towards enduring value rather than fleeting satisfaction. And what about forgiveness? Both self-forgiveness and forgiving others. Your future self has lived through the bitterness, the grudges, the weight of unforgiveness. They know how it can fester, how it can hold you captive. Perhaps, observing you clinging to an old hurt, they would sigh with a gentle understanding, knowing the journey you still have to undertake to release it. This perspective offers a profound invitation to let go, to shed the burdens that your future self already knows are not worth carrying. This isn't just about avoiding pain. It's about actively cultivating joy and meaning. Your future self has experienced both. They know which moments truly mattered, which relationships brought the deepest fulfillment, which risks were worth taking. Imagine them watching you hesitate on the brink of a new adventure, a new connection, a new creative endeavor. Would their silent encouragement, their knowing smile be enough to push you forward? The underlying principle here is a profound act of self-love and self-guidance. It's about treating your future self with the same care and consideration you would offer a beloved friend or family member. You wouldn't want to leave them a legacy of problems and unfulfilled potential, would you? You'd want to provide them with the best possible foundation for their continued existence. So, how do we integrate this perspective into our daily lives, beyond just the occasional thought experiment? It begins with intentionality. Before making a significant decision, or even a seemingly small one, pause, take a deep breath, and ask yourself, what would my future self, the one who has lived through this, want me to do right now? This isn't about divining an exact answer, because your future self isn't a magic oracle. It's about tapping into your deepest wisdom, your values, and your understanding of cause and effect. It's about engaging in a form of mental time travel, not to change the past, but to inform the present. Journaling can be an incredibly powerful tool here. Write a letter to your future self, or have your future self write a letter back to your present self. This act of externalizing the conversation can bring clarity and insight that might otherwise remain dormant. It forces you to articulate the hopes, fears, and lessons learned from both perspectives. Another approach is to visualize. Close your eyes and genuinely try to imagine your future self. What do they look like? How do they carry themselves? What is the prevailing emotion on their face as they observe you? Is it pride, sadness, amusement, compassion? The clarity of this visualization can be startlingly effective in shaping your current mindset and actions. Ultimately, the concept of your future self watching you from beyond isn't about surveillance. It's about connection. It's about understanding that you are a continuous, evolving entity, and that the choices you make today are not isolated incidents, but integral parts of an ongoing narrative. Your narrative. This perspective imbues your life with a deeper sense of purpose and responsibility. It shifts the focus from momentary impulses to lasting impact. It encourages you to live with integrity, courage, and a profound awareness of the ripple effect of your actions. Because every breath you take, every word you speak, every path you choose is being observed, not by some ethereal judge, but by the ultimate authority on your life, you. Your future self. And in that silent gaze lies a powerful invitation to live your best possible life right now.